Hi, I'm Michael Clark, live here at LTV. It is May the 5th. And as we do every Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we bring you Ask the Supervisor, where you can pose your thoughts and ideas to the East Hampton Town Supervisor, Peter Van Scoyoc. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Michael. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Holy smokes. I should have dressed appropriately, or what? Should we be drinking tequila or something? I don't know how it works.
I think that is a tradition.
Is it a tradition?
Margaritas.
Thank you, Peter, for making yourself available to field questions from the audience here on LTV's Channel 22 and on LTV's YouTube page as well. So, folks, if you have a question for Peter, you simply dial the number that you see on your screen here, and you'll be put into queue to speak. And if you prefer, you can send questions to Michael Clark, MichaelClark at ltveh.org. And I'll be checking my email prior to and during the shows, and we'll read those questions to Peter. So feel free to call in and ask the supervisor. So, Peter, okay, thanks. So, Peter, as always, there is plenty to talk about. I saw that your office released a press release on Monday that the New York State began distribution of the Federal CARE Act funding for relief to New York's fishing industry. And obviously that hits us very close to home. The feds added $5.7 million in aid to the initial $6.7 million they talked about allocating at first. And I know the board at the first allocation was not real happy with the original offer. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what transpired?
Well, fishing has been historically a major and important part of our local economy. New York's largest fishing port is Montauk. And, the pandemic, I think, especially hit fishermen hard. Many restaurants closing meant that there was a lot less demand for their products. So we feel it's really important to try to support that industry wherever we can. So we lobbied very hard for CARES Act money, along with other local officials here on the South Fork, particularly, in order to make sure that this aspect of our economy wasn't overlooked, that the fishermen weren't overlooked. So I'm pleased with the additional funding. I think we still have a long way to go to support the industry. I'm hoping that with these new restrictions being lifted, particularly after May 19th, it will resume a much more normal lifestyle and many more people will be dining out.
Right. But you guys went right to the source. If I read this correctly, that you went right to U.S. Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross with your requests to push for a more equitable system to support the fisheries, and I think that's great. And he's a local boy. I don't know if you know that or not. He lives in Southampton, but that he was, of course, with the Trump administration. But that's kudos to you guys for getting that done, for pushing that through. That's wonderful. So, are you happy with where it is now, or are you just looking for?
Oh, again, I don't think we can do too much at this point. I think the fishing industry has been beleaguered in the fact that the quotas, particularly for New York, don't really reflect the historic catch. And I think many feel that those quotas, really should be adjusted throughout the mid-Atlantic fisheries, particularly fluke quotas. So, there's still a lot more to do. There's the whole issue of licensing. It's highly restrictive, and if a family member who holds a fishing license, which are very hard to get, there's moratoriums on most of them, becomes ill, a family member can't just take over, or they can't transfer that. There's all sorts of restrictions to that. So there's a great deal more work that we need to do, I think, and we'll continue to press for those changes as well.
That's great. That's the history of the East End right there, and that group. They do so much for the local economy, and absolutely so many people and families are involved in that. Okay, Peter, we have a caller on the line, so we're going to push that through. Go ahead, Jay.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, who's calling?
Hi, this is John McCormick. I live on Middle Highway in East Hampton.
Hi, John. Were you in the office today when I was in a meeting?
No, I was not.
Oh, okay, because there was somebody from Middle Highway that came into the office who was concerned about some illegal dumping off Middle Highway in Montauk Avenue, I think it was.
Okay, yeah, I'm not aware of that. It wasn't me.
Okay, in any case.
So my question has to do with the sand mine on Middle Highway, and my understanding that the town was in litigation with that operator. And I'm wondering if you can give me a status of that. And on a related question, the issue of the town purchasing sand from that operator, I believe, for beach replenishment from Montauk. Can you talk about that, both the status of the litigation, your take on that, as well as what I see as a potential conflict, then contracting with that operator for purchasing sand to the tune of upwards of $1 million.
Yeah. So the status of that sand mine, Middle Line Highway sand mine is a pre-existing non-conforming use in that area, and they were allowed under their existing permit to completely mine all the remaining sand within the confines of that permit, and then they applied for an expansion. We believe an expansion of it to go down up to 105 feet below into groundwater, and that raised a number of concerns for us, given the importance of our drinking water and the potential threat of contaminating that. And so, we weighed in on that permit application with the DEC, said we did not support it. We did not think that the operator had the right to expand that use, and that is currently being litigated on a number of issues surrounding that issuance of that permit. At the same time, I believe they are allowed to continue mining under the pre-existing permit they hadn't completely mined out the total amount of volume on that preceding permit. With regard to the sand replenishment in Montauk, this is something that town's required to do under an agreement operation management plan with the Army Corps of Engineers. That work has to be completed by mid-May every year. We share the costs of that with Suffolk County. Annually, we put out to bid in a competitive bidding process to purchase sand and have it spread out on the beach there in downtown Montauk. And we have to follow very strict purchasing guidelines and protocols, and have to take the lowest qualified bidder who meets the requirements for our RFP. And in this case, it happened to be the same entity that owns and operates that sand mine. However, the sand that we're getting is not from that sand mine. It's actually a much higher quality, more beach compatible, both in grain size and in color. And that's coming from a sand mine further west.
Okay, well, got it. I'm glad to hear that the town is still pursuing legal remedies. So thank you very much for your answer.
Sure, John. Thanks so much for calling. And I just want to express that I understand the concerns there of the residential neighborhood that's been built in that area, the amount of noise and truck traffic as that operation continues it's not really a compatible use in a residential neighborhood. And that's why the zoning no longer supports that. But since the sand mine predated the residential designation, it's allowed to continue. Again, our concern was that it should have ended when they finished mining under the previous permit. Thanks again for calling.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We currently have no other callers on the line.
So moving along, Peter, as of May the 19th, most capacity restrictions, this is in terms of COVID-19 restrictions and protocols, most capacity restrictions will end across the tri-state area in businesses including retail stores, restaurants, museums, gyms, and fitness centers, amusement parks, and the like, with the 6-foot distancing rule mandated by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention still in place. What are your thoughts on that, on everything being kind of the jump where we're going to now?
Well, I'm frankly quite encouraged that the infection rate has, gone down to the point where, health officials are saying that this is okay to do. I'm pretty excited about it, honestly. We see that businesses basically can operate, again, without any occupancy limits, as long as they can keep it to a 6-foot distance. Excuse me. Also, the outdoor gathering limits have increased to 500 people. And of course, we have a special gathering permit process for gatherings over a certain size in East Hampton. So we will be entertaining those permit applications again.
You got the allergies hitting you as well.
I think that's what it is, Michael, is the pollen from the oak trees primarily.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial this year. I can tell you, I agree. I have same problems. But and every time you cough nowadays, everybody's looking at you. So you always got to say, no, it's allergies. It really is. But along those lines, what you were speaking of, Peter, getting back to normal and all that, it's great, good. This is back on Monday, though. The state's positivity rate stood at 1.9%, with I think around 37 deaths. Way too much still, obviously. And while New York State, according to the CDC, has the highest number of adults fully vaccinated in the nation, that vaccination rate has slowed across the whole nation, and many believe that there needs to be an emphasis on encouraging young people to be vaccinated, and so with that steady decline nationwide, and the fact that President Biden now he's really set some lofty goals for the next 60 days. What are your thoughts with that? I know, being involved with you over at the vaccination center in Wainscott, how do you think that all that is going? You seeing it slow up, what's coming or what's going to be available to East Hampton town?
Yeah, it's definitely slowing down, Michael. It's getting harder and harder to put together clinics with enough people, who are still in need of vaccine or willing to get vaccinated. And I've had a conversation earlier today with Robert Ross, from the Government Affairs official for Southampton Stony Brook Hospital, and they're finding the same thing, that when they do the clinics, they're having fewer and fewer people respond to their published availability of appointments. I know that the federal government's looking at winding down the mass vaccination centers for that reason as well. We may still make another attempt to vaccinate those who have not yet been vaccinated within East Hampton. Again, we have that dedicated registry. You go to the town website, ehamptonny.gov, or go to ehtownvaccine.org. That will take you to the site where you can register. And then based on that, we'll decide whether or not there's enough need within the community to continue with these vaccination clinics. I'm also looking into and may have access to a Johnson & Johnson, which is single dose. I know some people have been waiting to get Johnson & Johnson, but also, many of the pharmacies and doctors' practices now have access as well. And I think we're probably at the end of the town's involvement with sponsoring and putting forth these vaccination clinics for the community. I'm very proud of the effort that I started, the only town on Long Island to really take this on their own to ensure that our residents were able to get access to the vaccine right here in East Hampton. And we vaccinated thousands of people here. And again, thank you, Michael, for volunteering and helping out for those many clinics. Really a great experience, and I think very well received by the community. We'll see with the advent of the pharmaceutical companies getting certifications and approvals for vaccine for younger and younger people. I know Pfizer now has applied for and is expected to receive approval for 12 to 15-year-olds also. School-age children, they're also looking by fall, I think, to have vaccine approved for, toddlers up. So there may be another surge of demand for vaccinations for younger folks. There may be other people who've been hesitant, who feel that, yes, okay, I've been waiting and, nobody grew 3 heads, so I'll go ahead and get vaccinated, There's a lot of misinformation on the internet. I think it's also slowing the vaccination effort.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. Science and medicine really should be driving these decisions and not hearsay on Facebook or other platforms.
I think that the direction that you just outlined there, where we're at, and you're right, it was a huge effort and a really great effort by the town getting this started. And I know, and I realized the hoops that you guys had to jump through to make it happen, and you did. So, kudos to the whole team. But I think the rest of the nation too is kind of leaning in that direction that you just spoke of, where they're kind of now, the availabilities, it's a lot easier for distribution and all, and the places are in place to push it out to all of the pharmacies and to the doctor's offices, and there may not be a need for these town type of sites or these state type of sites, moving forward, unless, as you said, there's this, you have that surge in demand again, where they do open it up to children, and maybe they can't, handle it at the doctor level and that type of thing. So I guess it's kind of a wait and see, right?
Right, and we're willing and able to facilitate, those clinics again if the demand gets to that point, and very happy to do that. I'll just take an opportunity to thank my staff in the supervisor's office. The supervisor's office, myself and staff really, put forward this effort initially, and I'm very, very grateful for the huge response that we got and the support that we had from the communities, all the volunteers who came together to make this vision possible. So, thank you, everyone. And hopefully we'll be back to a much more normal year. Everybody have a nice chill summer this summer. Enjoy being able to be outdoors and go to restaurants and have fun and just be nice to each other. And I'm looking at that Marshall amp in the background there, Michael. I'm thinking how nice it'll be to be able to get out and, both enjoy live music of others and maybe play some myself.
Yeah, you could definitely come in and wail away on that, Peter. That's fine with me. That's
hey, well, I may just take you up on that when we're able to do these shows live and in person again.
Yeah, that's the new studio. That's our new Studio One in the background there, and we had Cliff Black and Joe D'Elia in here filming something for an upcoming show, and we kind of had a little bit of equipment in the background to kind of even things out. And a lot of people drool over a good old Marshall half stack.
Yeah, well, it's great to have. I'm glad you had Cliff and Joe D'Elia in, both very talented local musicians, and look forward to hearing them live as well. Yeah,
totally. That'll be on May the 20th. We'll be doing it's actually a fundraiser, Ladles of Love. It's a fundraiser for the East End food pantries. So that'll be coming to you live on May the 20th from LTV. So
that's terrific.
Keep an eye out for that.
I remember playing at that in the past at the Talk House.
At the Talk House.
And playing with Cliff and Joe out at the Salt Box in Montauk as well, just before things shut down for COVID. So looking forward to getting back to some of that.
Yeah, this is the first year they've had to do that virtually. And it's been real interesting. We've been recording the people in segments here at LTV. You know, all the local bands, the Nancy Atlases and G.E. Smith and a whole bunch of other people. And it's been great. And, you know, just having people come in, they're vaccinated, they're doing it. We keep it, the room is big enough where it's just 1 or 2 people. We can keep it socially distant. And so everything's safe. And, you know, for this year, at least, that's the way they'll be doing it. And we'll be airing it. It should be fun. You know, we're trying to keep it that way. But as a reminder, folks, the idea behind this show is to give you the opportunity to get a better understanding of how local government works through a direct conversation with our town's top official, Town Supervisor Peter Van Scoyoc. So, and we'll do it weekly at 2:00, and it's live. So if you have any questions, please call in on the number that's at the top of the screen there. We have a few minutes left here. What else is hot at Town Hall, Peter?
Wow, what else is hot at Town Hall? Well, you know, we have ongoing concerns about connectivity, particularly wireless communications within town. Some areas of town really don't have very good coverage at all. That's something that, you know, we'd noticed the impacts of just the additional population in the summertime over the system. And sometimes they get overloaded, people streaming and whatnot. And obviously with the pandemic hitting, we saw huge demand for connectivity and access to internet and wireless communications. And it's just really, I think, exacerbated the already, you know, limited and somewhat feeble signal areas. And, you know, that's a concern to us. So I put together a wireless communications committee. Councilwoman Kathy Burke-Gonzalez serves on that committee with me, along with Chair Arthur Malman and a number of both town staff members as ex officio and some community members as well. And we've hired a consulting firm, Cityscape, after a competitive bid process, awarded that bid. And we've been working with them. They've been going around town to check and identify the coverage areas and where the gaps are. And they're going to also help us with reviewing any cellular applications that come in. In addition, we're working on revising the town's wireless communications code, which is sorely outdated. I think the last time we got an update was like in 2003. There have been a number of changes to FCC regulations that are not reflected in our town code, which is problematic. So they're also helping us rewrite a comprehensive wireless code and help us better understand how we can address those gaps in coverage. You don't have to be a scientist to know that there's a gap in coverage in Springs that is concerning. And so we're also working on trying to identify locations for additional cellular communications towers to fill in those gaps. And that's something that's, you know, fairly urgent that we need to address. The town's emergency communication system is live now. Those switchovers to those to all those locations is underway and being tested. Should be fully operational by Memorial Day this year. So we've made a lot of progress on that. But on the personal wireless side, we do need to have some improvements. So I think identifying that and coming up with a path forward to solve those problems is really important.
Yeah, one of our callers last week was calling in about the about wireless as well, and it is. When people think, you know, they forget that it's not just a phone issue. That there's so much now tied to it, right? You know, there's safety concerns and being able to reach out to, as you say, you know, the different organizations and agencies that are, that's the way of the world now, and it's got to be good. So that's good to hear that you guys have put together that group. And
that committee is actually meeting a little later today, and we're just finalizing a poll to go out, questionnaire poll to go out to the community. Once we have that finalized, we'll circulate that. I think it's important to hear directly from the citizens of East Hampton.
Sure, that's great. So it doesn't look like we have any more callers. No more callers, Jason, right?
There are no other callers on the line. Okay.
Any final thoughts for you, Peter, before we close it out for the day?
Well, I guess, I'm excited that it's springtime and the warmer weather's coming, and that we're seeing the improvement in the infection rate. And hopefully, this is the end of COVID here, and that we can regain a sense of normalcy and people can continue with their recovery. I think it's important. I'm planning on keeping the emergency declaration in place probably through the summer, so that we can continue to address some of the economic impacts of COVID on our businesses, particularly restaurants. We're keeping the outdoor dining rules relaxed and allowing the tents on those properties, provided they followed the application process with the fire marshal. And so we're going to extend that through the season because I think it's really important to give some certainty to those businesses that outdoor dining can continue. And then probably in the fall, we'll institute that pilot program for the outdoor dining going forward. And I'm looking forward to rescinding that emergency declaration order, by the end of the summer. That's what I'm looking forward to.
That's great. Yeah, I had my first meal out in well over a year this past Sunday, and it was. Boy, I forgot how much I missed it.
Right?
Yeah, it was great, and it's going to be really welcome. So many people livelihoods are tied into that. So it's going to be great when everything's operational. And so I guess until next week, Peter, thank you once again for taking the time. Appreciate that. And we'll see you same time next week.
Thanks again, Michael. Appreciate it. Stay safe and be well, everybody.
Bye, everybody.